Welcome back to another episode of the Carter Cast. I'm your host, Carter Bond. We're back. NBA playoffs. We're recording 12:30 Eastern time. I'm on Eastern time now. We're at the beach right now recording. The podcast doesn't stop. I'm on vacation right now. We're still doing the podcast.
Love to hear that, Carter. First of all, welcome to the East Coast time zone. I mean, the
This
best
is
there
miserable.
is, welcome home.
It is
No,
legit
stop
miserable.
it. Stop that.
East Coast time zone sucks.
It does suck whenever you're watching those West Coast games and it's 10:30 p.m. or really 10:45 when they actually tip off. You got work the next day. There's no saving yourself.
This is awful. Like, I'm used to my 6:30 tip-offs on late NBA playoff games. Most games come
You're
on
soft.
like 5 p.m. Yeah, I'm getting soft. That's fine.
You're
But
soft now. You're soft now.
12:30, recording right now. You're looking at the background right now. It's completely black. Out on deck. Beach time. The beach is right behind me. You may hear it in the background. I don't know. We'll find out after on the editing. Anyhow, let's talk about the playoffs. Heat Celtics. Game 6. Game 6 is Saturday. Game 5 tonight. Somehow it's actually a series now. Heat were up 3-0. It's now 3-2. Boston won by 1 billion these last two games. Dominated. Can't miss a shot, apparently. The Heat looking like they're running out of gas. Just those initial thoughts after the game.
Initial thoughts, yeah. So after the Heat went up 3-0, I really did think the Celtics were dead in the water, and they still might be, but they've showed fight, and I don't know if I expected that. It looked like a team that was very dysfunctional, maybe a team that was, on the rocks a little bit. Jaylen Brown was having a few off games in a row. Did this team really like each other? There was a lot of questions about, Joe Mazzulla, is he the guy? A lot of question marks and not a lot of answers through the first 3 games. And in my mind, I did think they would maybe steal a Game 4 or even a Game 5, which they have. But what shocked me the most, Carter, is they've actually shown fight. They came out tonight down 3-1 in front of the home crowd. The crowd was great, by the way. And they stepped on the Heat's throats from the first minute of the game. They went up like 10 in the first few minutes of the first quarter, and that was it. They didn't turn back. They were hitting shots. They were energized. They were flying around on defense. It seemed like they really, pardon my language, they gave a shit. They really did give a shit tonight. And that is like a very big key in these Eastern Conference Finals, it seems like, because the first 3 games, the Heat were punking them. The Heat were messing around with them. Jimmy Butler was taunting them. It was just a complete 180 from the first 3 games. And the last thing I'll say on my opening point, I was a little shocked at how the Heat laid down tonight, especially Jimmy Butler. He only shot the ball 10 times. He wasn't being aggressive, and even when they were within striking distance, down 10, down 12 in the third quarter, he never really took control of the game like we saw him do the first 3 games. So that's something interesting to watch going forward. Clearly the Celtics are more talented, but it's tough to win 4 in a row. Never been done in the NBA, so I don't even know what to expect for Game 6.
That's what I'm saying, because that's the weird part. We're talking about, like, nobody's ever come back from 3-0, which is kind of surprising when you really break it down, because you would have thought like at least 1.1 team would have came back and won 4 straight.
Right.
Like, we've had the 16 seed beat a 1 in the NCAA tournament. That seems almost more unlikely than a team coming back from 4-0, because the NBA, the talent is a lot more equal.
Well,
like,
yeah,
okay,
true.
but like, let's talk about like not really talking about it, but like Nuggets Lakers, I feel like are a lot more even. I would take the Lakers winning 4 straight over, let's say, UMBC beating Virginia.
I guess so, but the thing about March Madness is it's one game. Anything can happen.
Yeah.
There can be an injury. The refs could call it a certain way. A guy can get hot, or a guy can be completely ice cold.
Even like separating that, it's just so surprising we haven't had one.
It is just because the talent level. The NBA is just pretty. They're pretty on par. There's a lot of parity in the NBA nowadays. More than there used to be, which maybe we'll see this more often now. If a team does go up 3-0, I think now it's a lot more common or more likely for a team to do that, because even when the Celtics were down 3-0, guys were not writing them off. Everybody around, the media and everything was like, they still have a chance. It might be very minuscule. Whereas, 5 years ago, if a team goes down 3-0, it's over. Nobody even talks about Game 4 because it's over. So I thought there was a lot of people out there that actually gave the Celtics a shot. And I've never really seen that in a series where it's been 3-0.
Even when it was 3-0, the sports books weren't even that down on the Heat. The Heat were minus 300. Right. If you don't know betting, that means you had to bet 300 to only win $100. But that's not crazy. Usually when a team's up 3-0, it's minus like 2,000, 3,000.
Exactly. And you saw that in the first round when the Sixers swept the Nets. That's the only other sweep of the playoffs before the conference finals. They were like minus 1,600 after game 3 or something ridiculous. I know it's the first round and the Nets, the talent disparity is a lot different than the Heat Celtics. But still, winning 4 games in a row in the playoffs, I don't know. There should have been a bigger deal made about that, I think.
100%. But let's go back talking about the game tonight. Isn't it weird? We always talk about the Heat are always punking these teams, and then the Heat just got punked early, and they didn't fight back. Like you mentioned, Jimmy Butler didn't fight back. He didn't shoot the ball very much tonight. Something just seemed off about it. I can't quite put my finger on it. I don't know if it was just Boston came out lights out. The crowd was going nuts. Maybe it's just they bought in and played defense. They actually played hard defense and were physical.
I think that's definitely an option. I also think, now I'm not going to attribute this entire loss to Gabe Vincent being out, but I think he was sorely missed, not only on offense, but his pick-and-roll defense that he's shown throughout the series. I thought that was a huge deal tonight. It also didn't help that Derek White turned into Reggie Miller and scored 24 points, led the game in scoring with 6 for 8 from 3. But the thing is, Carter, you knew there had to be some kind of regression to the mean with the Boston three-point shooting. They made 23s quite a few times during the regular season. They were cold the first 3 games of the series, and you knew it had to eventually come back. We just didn't know if it'd be too late or not. Well, here it is. It's back. They're jacking up threes. They have confidence. Everybody's hitting from all over the court. We knew eventually it would come to that point. I think maybe it still might be too little too late. I mean, 3-0 is a almost insurmountable hole, but I don't know. Miami laid down tonight. They laid down tonight.
And the thing is, it feels like if the Heat don't win Game 6, Game 7 in Boston, that line's going to be -9. It's going to be Boston's going to be a 9-point favorite in that game.
I think so too. And if it does get to a Game 7, Carter, I mean, Boston's been there. They've just won Game 7 against Philadelphia. This Heat team, they don't have a lot of guys that have been in that moment. Besides Jimmy Butler and Kyle Lowry, there's not another guy on that roster I trust. Kevin Love, sure, but he's not playing more than 15 minutes a game. So
Cody Zeller's been in a Game
there's not
7.
many guys on the Heat roster I would trust in it. He has been in a Game 7. What, in the first round? That's about as high as he's been.
And a Game 7 that was on NBA TV 7 years ago.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. There's just not many Heat guys I trust in a Game 7. They haven't been there. The Celtics are very battle-tested, it seems like. They've been together for a long time. If it does make it to 7, man, I think they're on a mission. The Heat's best chance to win the series is Game 6, and they're going to have to come out, and they're going to have to be physical because Boston's going to come out. They have nothing to lose anymore. They won the first 2 games. They're like, screw it. We're playing the monkeys off our back. We're just going to go balls to the wall, jack up threes, and they're hitting them right now.
And I know I just said that if the Heat don't win Game 6, they're not winning Game 7. That whole thing, it feels like that. But the thing is, you just don't know in these playoffs now. Like, these playoffs make zero sense. Everything you think you know, just think the opposite. Zag every single time. Every time you think, a player is going to hit 20 points in a game and you're going to bet it, don't. Just take the under. Just take the under. Just zag every single thing because the opposite just keeps happening. We never thought the Heat would make it this far. We never thought Boston being down 3-0. Heat are dead, or Celtics are dead. Heat aren't gonna lose this. Like, Heat are probably gonna sweep them. Blah blah blah. All of a sudden, we have a series now. It's a 2-game series.
I know, and if you would have told me before the series started, hey, it's best of Boston's down 3-2. I'm taking that. You wouldn't have told me they were down 3-0. You wouldn't have told me about the insurmountable 3-0 comeback, whatever, how bad they got beat 3-0. If you just would have said Boston's going to be down 3-2 with a game in Miami and a game in Boston, I'm taking Boston. So regardless of the first few games, it's now 3-2. It's not a brand new series, but man, they're playing with a newfound life, Carter. And I don't know. I think the talent's finally rising to the top. Like, I don't know if the clock's run out on this Heat team or what, but it's going to be a shame for them to make this run and not be able to pull out one more game to get to the finals.
Is it an indictment on Spoelstra and Jimmy Butler if they do blow a 3-0 lead?
I don't know. That's a loaded question because normally if a team blows a 3-0 lead, I would be like, yes, that's inexcusable. There's no doubt in my mind that's an indictment on them. But they're so grossly mismatched talent-wise. They just are. The Celtics are the deepest team in the playoffs.
And it shouldn't go unnoticed. They're a legit 8 seed. They are an 8 seed caliber team. As much as people want to say it, they have 7 undrafted guys. They are an 8 seed. This has been maybe the most historical run in NBA playoff history. I mean, we've never seen an 8 seed get this far. They are one game away from being in the NBA Finals and not being that big of an underdog in the NBA Finals. And like this run by Jimmy Butler will go down in history books.
I agree, and I've heard other people in the media talk about it. They're the only team to make it this far with a negative point differential. That's insane. They were below 500 for the year, negative point differential, dead in the water. I thought they were dead in the playing game.
Hero.
Yeah, Tyler Hero, their number 2 creator on offense, I would argue, behind Jimmy Butler. Sometimes their number 1 initiator. To lose him, and Oladipo's playing spot minutes for them, he goes down. Guys are just stepping in, filling the shoes. Gabe Vincent has had a bigger role. Duncan Robinson came off the bench tonight, 18 points, 4 rebounds, 9 assists on 7 for 10 shooting. He has stepped up the series. He didn't see a meaningful minute during the regular season. Haywood Highsmith, 15 big points off the bench tonight in 36 minutes. These guys are just stepping up and stepping in, and that's the thing about this Heat team that's really fascinated me is it's just the next man up mentality, and we don't have to get into this whole rant about the Heat culture again. But the next man up mentality has really worked for them, and it's going to be a shame to see it end if they were up 3-0, because then that's all anybody's going to remember them by. It's going to be, oh my gosh, the Heat are the team that blew a 3-0 lead to the Boston Celtics.
I don't know that.
I think so, Carter. But when people look back at history,
I really think they're playing with full house money. Even if they lose, it can't be seen as a disappointment because this run is so insane.
I agree.
It's the equivalent of when Florida Gulf Coast was making their run. Like, if they lose in the Sweet 16, even if it was to another 12 seed, it's not going to be a disappointment. They're going to remember that run, I think. Even though, yes, it's the first time they've lost in a 3-0, that'll be a trivia question on the dozen in 5 years. But still, I maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. I'm flip flopping all over the place, like we talked about.
You're zagging
last week. Yeah, I can't help myself.
Well,
we've been wrong on so much. Like the second I'm like, haha, yeah, I look right, and then the next TikTok that comes out, I look like an idiot, and you look great.
Yeah. I mean, there's really no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We've been pretty dead wrong on a few things these playoffs. I don't know, Carter. The thing is, people are going to look back on NBA history. And they're going to think, man, the first team to ever come back from 3-0 was the Celtics. And then, yes, I don't think it's going to be seen as a disappointment for Miami, but that is going to be the number one headline is the Celtics came back from 3-0. It doesn't mean it was a disappointing season for the Heat, but I just really think, looking back in history in 15, 20 years, when people remember this Eastern Conference final series, that's what it's going to be remembered by, not this historic Heat run. Now, yes, us basketball junkies will remember that and talk about it. Mm-hmm. But when this stat gets pulled up on SportsCenter or on NBA stats or whatever it is, that's what's going to be remembered, I think.
Let's talk about the Boston side real quick. I'll give my take on this first, and I'll let you go. For them to win this series, it literally takes two things for them. Coaching is out the door. Coaching is irrelevant for them. They have so much more talent. They can win these games. They can overcome poor coaching. That we'll get into the Missoula stuff later. That's a different story. But the two things are, one, Tatum has to drive. We saw Tatum tonight. He came out aggressive. He was penetrating. And the number one thing he was doing, he was looking for the best possible shot. He wasn't getting into his little dance move and then step back three, step back, 19-footer, 2-pointer, whatever.
Yeah.
He wasn't taking those bad shots. He was driving to the paint. He was getting aggressive. He was looking for contact like we didn't see in these games where they just give up. I don't know what it was. Game 3, you're just oh wow, the Celtics, this run's over. Jaylen Brown probably not going to be there next year. Joe Mazzulla definitely getting fired right after this game, or right after the next game probably. And now we have this just full 180 like we did in the Sixers series. But going back to that, Tatum has to drive, because when he drives, that creates his shot more. It creates the shots for other people more. Even guys like Al Horford are hitting shots all of a sudden. Jaylen Brown cannot miss from 3 tonight. What you mentioned, Derek White 6 for 8 from 3, ridiculous. And the other thing is the 3 ball. They only win games in the playoffs when they shoot above 40% from 3. That's what it is. Tonight, 41%. The last game, 40%. Every other game in the series, 34 or less. That's the story.
I'm going to agree with you on both those, and I'm also going to offer a tertiary point. About what you said, though, Tatum is the focal point of this offense. He's the fulcrum. When he's aggressive, when he's driving the lane, he's forcing the defense to help from the weak side. They were so good tonight, like kicking it to the corner or to the wing and swinging it one more and getting an open three or leaving a guy a wide open lane to the basket. When Tatum is drawing two defenders like that and they're actually hitting their threes off the one more pass, they're wide open threes. When they're hitting them, it's almost unstoppable. And a third point I want to bring up, I agree with you, but I want to bring this up too. Jaylen Brown didn't turn the ball over tonight. He had I think one turnover. The first few games, he was coughing it up. He was trying to do too much. Too many broken plays. The ball ends up in his hands, and he's getting it tipped around. He's getting it stripped from him on the drive. He doesn't have a very tight handle. I think that's a crucial point also because the broken possessions can't end up in his hands where he's trying to play hero ball, Mr. Do-It-All. Not in the playoffs, not against a defensively sound team like Miami. I was making bank off Jaylen Brown over 2.5 turnovers the first 3 games of the series. He's really cleaned it up, it looks like, buttoned it up. And when they're hitting those swing threes, one more pass to the corner off the Tatum drive, I think they're near unstoppable.
Talk about the Miami side real quick. What are they going to do in Game 6?
Here's what I'm thinking, Carter. Game 6, Heat. They got to come out. They got to come out hot. They can't afford to go down 15 early in the first quarter like they did tonight. I think Butler's got to come out aggressive. He's got to be creating. He cannot be limited to 10 shots. I think that's insane. I also think Bam has got to be more aggressive as well because there's a lot of these rebound chances that he's going after that he's just not really a force on the boards at some points of the game. He'll disappear for like 7 or 8 minutes, and you can't have that from your second best player when you're as depleted as they are injury-wise. I think he's got to be a bigger point in the offense. I think Bam's got to get more shots as well. And somebody else has to step up in the starting lineup, whether it be Lowry, whether it be Strus, whoever. Because Caleb Martin, I don't think he can withstand this production. I mean, he had 14 again tonight, but you're asking a lot if you're banking on him to get you 15 to 20 points and hit 3 threes. I think that's a lot. And guard the other team's best wing defender, best wing offensive player.
Side tangent real quick. I don't think we remembered this, that Caleb Martin somehow he got a decent contract. Like when he got signed last offseason to a 3-year, $20 million deal, I remember texting you being like, they overpaid so much for Caleb Martin. Like, why would they ever do this? That is one of the biggest steals in the NBA right now. If he was a free agent going into this offseason, he arguably is getting $15 to $20 million a year.
Yeah, I think he's getting easily a 3 or 4 year deal for $80 million. And what's even more insane is that the Hornets had him. They had him. He played for the Greensboro Swarm. He was on the Hornets, and we always used to like, oh man, the Martin twins are in, Martin minutes, blah blah blah. And now look at him. He's been the second, third best player on the court long stretches in the Eastern Conference Finals series. If you would have told me that 4 years ago, I would have laughed in your face.
That's the interesting part with with guys like the Martin twins or whatever, because they walk on the court, they think they're the best player on the court, when it can be the worst thing for them or the best thing for them. Like, you kind of need those guys in the playoffs to get you far.
Well, I agree with that point, and I think it's very situational because having that attitude in Charlotte on a losing team with a lot of personalities, a weird locker room, and you're hovering around 500, that's not going to work. But, in the playoffs, yes, the Heat were 500. But in the playoffs, with a guy like Jimmy Butler manning the ship, you need to have that confidence. You have to have that swagger, dare I say, when you come on the court because you are the underdog. You're the 8th seed, and you have to go out there and have an FU attitude and play like you're the best guy on the court. And with this Heat team, that works. But in the Hornets situation in Charlotte, that's not going to work. So I think it's very situational.
How much does your disdain for the Martin twins come from them just being on those gross Mark Gottfried NC State teams? Because I know that's it for me.
Oh, I mean, that's easily the foundation of where it starts. But, man, whenever they talk about them on the broadcast, it's always the Martin twins from Nevada. Like, they do not mention NC State.
Nope. And that's all
hilarious.
I remember by, even though they made that crazy run. Looking here in my notes, that's kind of all I had on it.
What do you think that he have to do in Game 6? Because I really, Carter, if they don't come out hot, if they get punched in the mouth again,
it's stupid.
They could roll over.
It's stupid, but they have to hit shots, and somebody has to step up because the Celtics are double-teaming Jimmy Butler. They're playing help.
Right.
They have one guy coming up on them, and then they always have help immediately coming after. The other guys have got to step up. Gabe Vincent, if he plays, he's got to hit threes. One other dude just has to get hot from 3, kind of like Derek White did for the Celtics tonight.
Well, something I'm also seeing, Carter, Jimmy Butler shot the ball 10 times tonight. Yes, they're throwing different things at him defensively. They didn't let him hunt the switch tonight. They didn't let him hunt Derek White or whoever on the switch tonight. And that really helps them. And also, he wasn't being as aggressive, which doesn't force them to bring the help. And that ruins the Heat offense. The Heat offense is all about Butler getting penetration, pick and roll, lob to Bam, kick out to wide open Strus or whoever's standing there in the corner for 10 seconds waiting for the ball. if Butler's not being aggressive, that really just breaks down their offense, and it's hard to put that much on one person. But for this Heat team, that's what he's been, and that's what he has to be. That's the only, not the only, but that's the primary reason they've come this far. And so watching him not turn up the notch this game, almost roll over, hopefully he has it in for one more game or they're screwed.
He's got to play like Michael Jordan, like he has all playoffs. Like, that's not an exaggeration.
He needs to have at least 25, 6, and 6. I'm serious. He needs to have the ball in his hand 95% of the time.
That's minimum.
Yeah. I think, man, for them to win Game 6, he might need to have like 35.
Absolutely. I don't think anything else, anything less than that happens. Before we get into like whether we think it'll actually happen or not, I want to bring up this point. Jason Tatum. Let's say the Celtics win Game 6 in Miami. Someone at the press conference is gonna be like, "Oh, how excited are you? How are you gonna celebrate? Whatever." One of those, stupid questions, whatever. I guarantee you, if the Celtics win Game 6, Jason Tatum goes in the press conference and does the Kobe, job's not finished.
Oh, yeah. What are the odds on that? Minus 500 because I'm putting down my life savings on it. I mean, he'll go in there. He'll probably have the 8 and 24 sweatbands on his arms.
He's going to do the job's not finished. I wanted to bring that up, though. Predictions. Do you think the Celtics do it? Are they going to come back from 3-0 down?
No. I think it's going to be tight in Game 6. These last few games have been duds. I think Game 6 is going to be really tight, and I think the Heat pull it out. I really do. I think they pull out Game 6. I'll even go as far as to give a little prediction. I would say like 109 to 103. Heat pull it out Game 6. Butler masterclass. Boston puts up a fight, goes up by 10 sometime in the third quarter, and then the Heat take control in the fourth and really like actually show up. That's my prediction, Carter. And I could be dead wrong, but
I think they do it.
Really? You think Boston does it?
Yeah, I was concerned with the Heat tonight. That really bothered me how they came out. Like, it almost, obviously they don't. Obviously you don't do this in NBA playoff games. It looked like they punted tonight. Something switched tonight that I didn't like. And also, Boston just keeps doing the bare minimum to win this championship somehow. Like, if they win this championship, it will be the absolute bare minimum way to do it. They're just the kid that procrastinates their homework to the last second. It's like, all right, guys, like, let's actually do it. Like, come on.
Yeah.
The Atlanta series, that should have been a sweep. There's no reason that should have been more than 5 games at least. And, of course, it goes to a tight Game 6 for some reason. Philly, they should have won that Philly series, honestly, in Game 5. Game 5, Game 6.
They blew Game 1 without Embiid. Blew Game 1.
Blew Game 4. 4 was the bad one.
Yeah.
4 was the worst one. Clear coaching mistakes, and they somehow barely skate by in the Philly series, and they were down 3-0. It doesn't get worse than that. They're now 3-2. All they have to do is win 2 more games. Momentum's on their side. It just feels like it's what's going to happen.
I see what your point is there, Carter.
The talent is just going to outweigh, and we're looking at the spread right now. Boston's still favored in Miami.
Well, the books love Boston. They've loved Boston this whole playoff run. I mean, Boston instantly dropped like the second title favorite. Yeah, so they've loved them all playoffs. The reason I'm going to disagree with you a little bit, Carter, is because the Heat all regular season showed they were out of it. They were dead in the water. They rolled over. And all of a sudden, the playoffs get here, and they turn it on. They flip a switch. They start punking teams. I'm not willing to sell on them yet. Not after I was so low on them, and they proved me wrong throughout the whole playoffs. They can flip the switch for another game. I think they have it in them. They've shown it all playoffs. And I'm not willing to let this Heat team die, honestly. I think they really will come out with a fire in Game 6.
Part of me also picks Boston because you've been so anti-Heat, and now you're finally going on to the Heat, and I think you just caught the bandwagon just a little too late. Maybe at the worst time, actually.
I mean, Carter, I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm a prophet. I mean, I was down on the Heat. I thought they were dead in the water against Chicago in the play-in tournament.
So did I. I mean, we didn't actually think they were going to beat the Bucks, even though I said, like, I mean, I guess they could without Giannis, but Giannis played and they still did it. It makes no sense.
Oh my gosh, I was so high on the Bucks. I was like, the Bucks are going to win in 6 even without Giannis. I could not believe what happened in that series.
And I genuinely do believe all these predictions I'm making and all this, but it's not gospel. It's not, because nothing we say, like, if Jimmy Butler, nothing will surprise me in these playoffs. That's just what you got to remember. If Jimmy Butler goes out and has 50, 15, and 10 I wouldn't be surprised on Game 6. Would not in the slightest.
I agree. I think Butler can have a masterclass, or I think Boston could absolutely stomp them the next 2 games just because they're that much better. They're deeper, and they have more guys, and they're hitting threes. If they come out and hit 23s, I don't really see too many scenarios that he win. The Heat just have to play solid defense and honestly hope for some misses. They have to hope Derek White doesn't shoot 6 for 8, or Marcus Smart doesn't shoot 4 for 6, or Al Horford doesn't come out and score 15 points in a Game 7. Like, they have to hope for these things to fall in their favor. And if not, then Boston's going to go to the finals. But my prediction is Heat in 6.
Yeah, there's no way Heat in 7. I'm going Celtics in 7. And the other thing I want to bring up, too, was if the Celtics do lose Game 6 and, like, everyone's down, whatever, and Jaylen Brown trade rumors are going to come out like crazy, he'll probably tweet from a burner, the whole thing, whatever. Every NBA player does it. They have to run it back and just get a new coach. That's all it is. Everyone's talking about these new things like, oh, trade Jaylen Brown, do this, do that. It's coaching. It's all it is. If they buy into a new coach, that's all it is. Nick Nurse is your first call. Don't let him walk out the door. Give him however much he asks. That's all it is. It's that simple.
Okay, but just, it's easy to put the blame on a coach. It's easy to make the coach a scapegoat. And Missoula clearly wasn't ready for this. He was thrust into the spotlight.
I understand that, but one, the coaching mistakes nearly cost them in the Sixers series, and also it just doesn't seem like they bought in. And then all of a sudden now they're buying in after being down 3-0. It just makes no sense.
But Carter, here's the thing. If you're Boston, yes, you've had playoff success, and yes, this core is great together, and Jaylen Brown's the guy you don't want to lose. Is he $50 million a year? Is he $50 million a year player since he is eligible for the extension now?
My honest
is that somebody
no.
you're willing to spend? Well, then what do they do? Because yes, they've made deep runs, but if they lose in this conference finals, I don't think there's an excuse. They should have been in the finals this year. If they don't make it, they should have been.
I understand. The coach is always going to be the scapegoat. We both know that. It's always going to happen.
Yeah, but
like
I don't know how much of a big deal it is. I know they're a lot worse than last year, but did Udoka make that big of a difference? Maybe he did. Maybe his voice did, but I don't know, Carter. At the end of the day, it's the players, and they've been together 6-7 years now.
If Udoka's coaching this year, I think they're easily in the finals.
That's probably true. There was a lot of weirdness with the whole situation of Missoula coming in, young guy. I know Simmons called him second row Joe, but maybe that is true. Like the guys maybe didn't really know him really well, or he didn't have a big role in the team, and then comes in and all of a sudden he's your head coach, and he's old. He's younger than Al Horford, so that's weird to listen to a guy like that. I don't know if that's all the difference, and that could be it, and that could work, and they could get a new coach and keep the same core together and just completely come back and dominate next year. That's fine, but they got a lot of decisions to make this offseason, and you have to be very sure about your core if you're going to start paying Jaylen Brown $50 million, and he has looked pretty bad the first 4 games of this series.
Even if you do pay him that money and he has one average year next year, then you can ship him out. Ship him out to the Houstons and the San Antonios of the world. I think you can always have that option. I think you have to run it back one more. I mean, why you can't give it up? You can't give him up.
That's the thing is what are you going to get to replace him? You're not going to get a guy who's much better than him, that knows the system, that loves Boston as the fan loves. You're not going to get a better replacement for him because that's what you want. You want a 3-and-D wing, a guy who can create his own shot, and he can do that to a certain extent.
All right, let's talk about the Lakers Nuggets real quick. Lakers get swept. Nuggets sweep them 4-0. Let's talk about the Lakers side first. I know I want to give the Nuggets their credit, their due diligence. I have nothing but amazing things to say about Denver, but we got to talk about the Lakers first. Immediately after the series, the most predictable LeBron events occur. What happened? Came out, he has a torn tendon or something, some knee injury. It comes out that he may want to retire. It comes out that, blah, 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 someone might get traded. The whole 9 yards. It's so predictable how calculated everything is. On the Lakers side, what do the Lakers do from here?
They're in a tough spot because the thing with LeBron is you knew the injury was going to come out. We knew he was injured before the playoffs even started. And in fairness to him, that would have ended most guys' seasons. But he played with it, and everybody knew that, so be it. It's not like it was breaking news that he was playing with it. I don't think that's a bad thing for it to come out. I was always going to happen. Feel how you want to about it. It was always going to happen. The retirement comments kind of took me by surprise.
But does LeBron, every single time he loses, have to come out with some groundbreaking injury? Every time he loses. It never comes out when he wins.
No, that's fair. But the thing is, with this, don't you think the narrative would have been if they won the championship that LeBron just shouldered the Lakers to a championship with one leg and he had disc on his foot? You don't. I think that would have been the narrative. Yes, it would have.
No.
That would have come out. It would have. It would have been LeBron played this whole playoff run with a torn tendon in his foot and still led the Lakers to a title. That would have been the narrative.
It would have been 38, 39-year-old LeBron does it again. He willed this team from the dead. The 7th seed. Nobody's ever had
on one leg
like this before. I don't think the one leg part would have been a part of it.
I don't know, dude. I think these LeBron fans would have been bringing that out the woodwork. The thing is, this one I think is legit, but based on his track record, it's almost like the boy who cried wolf, where it's like, okay. Exactly. Like, it's happened so many times. It's happened so many times where it's like, oh, here we go again. But this one's actually probably the most real out of all of them.
Maybe. The quote-unquote groin injury of 2019, completely fake. That one had to be fake. Or it was like a 2-week injury, and he realized the team sucked. Because that's the thing. Like, you hear all these NBA writers say, when LeBron's bought in, he's bought in. And this year, he was bought in. But, those years, like last year or 2019, not in. You can tell immediately. If he's playing defense, whatever, you can tell immediately. Yeah.
Well, that's all fine and dandy. The retirement comments caught me a little off guard because I never thought he would come out.
Don't.
But to come out and like actually hit in a retirement like that, I didn't really expect him to do that.
It's so on schedule. It's so on schedule
for
LeBron.
Why?
Because he's putting pressure on Rob Pelinka. He's like, I might retire, and then he's going to make Rob Pelinka mortgage even more of their future to get guys he wants. That's all it is. It's all so calculated.
Well, you know what actually this reminds me of, and this just occurred to me right now, is that when he was back in Cleveland and he was like kind of flirting with Los Angeles and, buying the property there, and it was like, oh, I'm going to leave for LA unless you make this team better. Now it's not, I'm going to leave for another team. It's, I'm going to retire. So yeah, okay, I get that. It's the same mindset. Still though, to actually hear him hint at that, it was a little jarring for me just because I kind of took a step back and I was like, when he's gone, like that really is the end of an era. Like we're actually in a new era. Like my childhood that I grew up watching in the NBA is going to be gone. And it mostly is right now. Carmelo retired. Chris Paul's on the way out.
Steve Nash
It's a new
retired.
age. Exactly. Yeah, of course.
Marcin
Beyonce's getting up there.
Dwight Howard's in Taiwan.
Oh, what a clown, by the way. I don't know, Carter. Just circling back to the Lakers, what they do this offseason. They have to keep Reeves, and he's probably going to get offered $80, $90 million. They're going to have to match that. And they're going to have to keep Hachimura because
he's gone.
He's not gone. They're going to have to match it. They have to match it. Oh, God.
I don't think they have the money. Do you think they're going to go that much into the luxury tax to pay for that? He's going to get, what, 15, 20 mil? I mean, the Caleb Martin deal we were just talking about earlier? Someone's going to talk themselves. Look at the other free agents, though, that's on the market, and there's a lot of cap space to spend on a lot of bad teams and a lot of unorganized and poor track record franchises. Let's talk. The Rockets got a lot of cap space.
And
I think
there's also
track record, but
yeah,
these teams have so much, and they have to spend it. Rui Hachimura played in big playoff games, played well. $15 million. Here you go.
I also think there's a heavier. Well, I know there is. There's stricter cap rules for the teams that go over the limit now, so that'll play a factor. But if you're the Lakers, you got to prioritize. D'Angelo Russell's not going to get as much money as maybe they thought for an extension. I doubt they even bring him back. They got guys like Malik Beasley, a couple expiring deals. I think they have to prioritize getting Rui back, even if that does cost them $15 million a year, because they filmed something and it worked. And I think that's a lot easier keeping these guys around that you had this year instead of finding new guys to try and fit the system and play with LeBron, because that doesn't always work. And usually ends up blowing up in their faces midway through the year whenever they try to sign new players around LeBron anyways. They're in a tough spot, Carter, because LeBron's only getting older. Maybe he's retired, maybe not. Anthony Davis, he looked like more of himself in the playoff run, but he's also very up and down, hot and cold. You can't depend on him to play 80 games a year. They got to keep some of these guys, and the more I look at their roster and their cap situation, they don't have a lot of depth. Lonnie Walker is going to have to get some money. They don't have a lot of depth. So I don't know, Carter. They're going to have to do something with D'Angelo Russell, and that's what I'm most interested in, because they talked about an extension when they first got there, and now I'm like, he was unplayable in this last series. What do you do? They're in a tough spot.
I think the interesting part for the Lakers offseason is the Draymond part of it all. What happens with Draymond?
He doesn't fit with them. That's the thing. You might
He
want to talk
doesn't.
yourself.
He
You want to talk
doesn't.
yourself into that? That's fine. That's another non-shooter on the court. Another guy who needs to have the ball in his hands to set up the offense. We saw with LeBron, at times during this series, Austin Reeves was a great option off the pick and roll as the ball handler. But LeBron had the ball. Or Dennis Schroeder had it going a couple games. LeBron had the ball. Really wanted the ball in the block in these ISO situations. He had it going. LeBron had the ball through him, which I'm not saying is wrong, but you think Draymond's going to add anything to that? It's just another ball-dominant player.
I don't agree with the Draymond signing, and I also think like Draymond to the Lakers, all that stuff is solely coming out of Draymond's camp because it's like the kid who's not in the cool friend group yet, like LeBron in the banana boat, and Draymond Green wants to be a part of the banana boat crew so bad, and they're like, yeah, nah, man, we're not letting you in.
Not enough seats on the boat, Draymond. I think it is coming out of his camp because if you're his camp, you have to, because if you're the Warriors, you need to feel like you're threatened in order to bring him back. Like, oh man, do we really want to lose this core guy of our championship core to a conference rival? No, we don't. Let's bring him back. But if there's really no smoke there, then they don't have anybody they're competing against. So they have to. Draymond has to blow some kind of smoke about him going somewhere else.
And the other interesting part about the Lakers offseason, I guess it's not necessarily the offseason, I guess it's going into next season, is Anthony Davis did not show up in the biggest moment, and that's kind of becoming a theme. Besides the 2020 bubble, you said it on the last show before we talked about this when we talked about the preview for the series. Anthony Davis cannot have one bad game. He has to play 4 elite games for them to win. He played 0.
Yeah, and the role he needed for this team was to be a scorer. Yes, he was great defensively. He was arguably the best defensive player in this playoffs. He looked a lot like himself on that end. But for what this Lakers team needed, they needed 20 to 25 a night from him, and sometimes even 30. They needed that.
He didn't look like the best player defensively in that series.
No, he didn't. He didn't have many elite games. I mean, there was flashes, but when a guy's supposed to be your best player, LeBron's getting up there in age. He's injured. Anthony Davis is supposed to be their best player in every series. He didn't show it. You got a lot of capital committed to a guy like that. I just don't know how far they're going, especially if LeBron's out, then they just need to blow it up. But I feel like he'll be back with the Lakers next year. Or let me put on my little tinfoil hat here. Take a year off LeBron, spend $1 billion on his body. Maybe tank, yes, stay with the Lakers, whatever. Spend $1 billion to regenerate your body like he does. Get his mind at peace, whatever. Come back and play a year with Bronny, or just come back in general and play a couple more years. Maybe he just takes a year off. He can do it. He broke the scoring record. I don't hate that idea. If he legitimately says he's retiring, and then it's a whole big thing, and then he comes back for a couple years, and then he actually retires, and then he bids for the team in Vegas. It's a pretty good timeline.
Oh man, that's good. I like that. Yeah, at the minimum, this isn't even really conspiracy theory. This is just what's going to happen. He's going to retire at least twice. He's going to pull a Brett Favre. I think so too. He'll pull at least one Brett Favre. I don't think he'll do it as many times as Brett Favre, but this is laying the seeds of what we're going to see for the next 5 years. After every last game of the season with LeBron, he's going to say, I'm retiring.
We were bashing on Anthony Davis, Carter, and we were talking about the stats. I was looking at the stats. 27 and 14 on 49% shooting. You look at that on paper, that's a pretty damn good series. And I think a lot of that stems from game 1, though. He had 40 in game 1. That was his best game of the series by far. And then after that, it was a steady decline. You mentioned stats before. What's your take on that? Because these numbers look pretty good on paper.
If you're watching the game, did you feel him? Did you feel it when he got the ball? Besides, you mentioned game 1. He was unbelievable in game 1. He was awesome. But you know who was better? Jokic.
Jamal Murray,
Jokic, whoever. It doesn't matter. I didn't feel it from Anthony Davis games 2 through 4. He was just there. He was, he scored 22. And it's kind of how you felt with LeBron, too. You're kind of surprised every time you check the stat line. You're like, really? He has 25, 8, and 7? Really?
Yeah.
It did not feel like that. But, and then you compare it to Jokic's triple-doubles, you feel them. You feel every 13 assists, all 15 rebounds, all 27 points.
I completely agree, especially on the rebounding part, because when Jokic gets the rebound, he pushes the pace, he runs these guys, balls to the wall, he's pushing the floor, guys are running on the wings. This is your center, by the way, doing that. Anthony Davis gets a rebound, uncontested, we'll give it off to Reeves or LeBron, walking up the court. Jokic pushes the pace. He'll make a nice pass off the break. Jamal Murray averaged 33 points this series. You felt that. You felt him score 33. They had to literally put Schroeder on him 84 feet from the basket in the last game just to try to slow him down. When a team has to game plan their entire defense around you, that's a big deal. The Denver defense didn't have to game plan around Anthony Davis. He wasn't as dominant or as forceful after game one as he needed to be. And LeBron was hurt. LeBron, lost a step maybe. Say what you want to about him. He wasn't his usual self. Anthony Davis had to be that guy, and he had good numbers on paper. And, in the contract talks, it's going to be, look what I did. Here's 28 and 14. Here's his trade value if they're trying to trade him, whatever. But did you really feel it? I think you made an excellent point, Carter, because a lot of those stretches, you didn't feel it.
No. And like I kept saying, you felt every little bit of Nikola Jokic, and that's why I really want to talk about Denver right now, because they deserve all the credit in the world right now. By far,
they do.
By far the best team in the playoffs. They were the only sure bet in this playoff so far. You think you know something, you don't. But except with this Denver team. Every single time with this Denver team, you're like, I know what's going to happen. They're going to win this game. They're looking great. They continuously get open shots. They have, what do we talk about, Connor? Continuity. They have insane continuity. Yep. Nikola Jokic dominates on offense. Dominates. It is unreal what he does on the basketball court, how he gets every single person involved. And that's the key there is whenever these guys get their hands on the ball, even if they're not shooting, they get their hands on the ball, they are able to take open shots. Everybody gets to shoot. Everybody gets to let it fly. It's not my turn, my turn, my turn, my turn. Everybody gets to shoot. Everybody gets the ball. Everybody's going to be a lot more enjoyable to play with. They want to play. They're going to play harder. They're going to play better on defense. They're going to cut faster when they know they're going to get the ball from a guy like Nikola Jokic. And that's the underlying theme where that's just what he brings to the table.
I completely agree. And if you're looking at Denver, it just seems like this is the year that the stars aligned. Jamal Murray's finally back fully healthy. Michael Porter Jr. is back healthy. He's hitting shots. They finally found a guy to play at the 4 that pairs well with Nikola Jokic. I think Aaron Gordon pairs very well with him. They tried the Paul Millsap thing. They've tried filler pieces, JaMychal Green. Nothing's really worked. Aaron Gordon came in and it's actually worked. Also doesn't hurt that KCP averaged 15 points on 45% shooting from 3. KCP. This guy was hitting every big shot, and that's the thing with the Nuggets is the role guys stepped up, the quote-unquote other guys. If you look at the Lakers, D'Angelo Russell, brick, turnover, unplayable. Jared Vanderbilt, unplayable because he couldn't hit a shot on offense, and his defense wasn't being felt enough. These guys, these 4th, 5th options for the Lakers were unplayable. Guys, for the Nuggets, KCP's hitting every big shot. Aaron Gordon makes the extra swing pass to the corner for a wide open 3. Michael Porter Jr. is hitting 5 threes a game. He's pulling up. The other guys really stepped up, and it seems like they made every big play in every big moment. Whenever the Lakers went on a run, you know who was there to stop it? Usually KCP. Usually Aaron Gordon off a putback dunk. Usually Michael Porter Jr. off a pull-up on transition. The other guys were there to stop runs in big moments, and that's what it takes for a complete playoff run. Yes, Jokic is going to average a triple-double. Yes, Murray's going to put up 30. They can't do it all, and when these role guys step up, Bruce Brown, especially off the bench, he averaged 12 points this series on 53% shooting. Those guys won in the series. You know what you're going to get from Jokic, and you know what you're going to get to an extent from Jamal Murray. Those guys stepped up and played way outside what they expected. I know that for a fact. And the Lakers were just unlucky in that regard. The stars have aligned for Denver, and I think they're on a tear.
I just don't think.
Sorry, that was a long tangent.
No, you're fine. I don't think that's even the Lakers are unlucky. I just think Denver's just that good, and everything. And like you said, stars are aligning, everything's clicking. The other part of it too is these role guys. Michael Porter Jr. almost averaged a double-double, 15 and almost 10 rebounds in that series. It's like with Andrew Wiggins last year. Andrew Wiggins, what was the key to the Warriors winning last year was Andrew Wiggins playing. Obviously, Curry was going to get his 30, whatever. Clay, not as much. Jordan Poole, kind of a heat check guy. But Andrew Wiggins. Was Andrew Wiggins going to come out that night, and was he going to get his 18 to 20 and 10 rebounds? Andrew Wiggins was always crashing the boards, and Michael Porter's committed to that, and that's been a big difference. He gets big rebounds in big moments, and he's always a threat to shoot. He's got an elite jump shot. I'm just super impressed.
One point I wanted to touch on, kind of banking off that, is each of these other guys for the Nuggets, it seems like they've added something to their game that you haven't normally seen, whether it be with the previous team in their career or even during the regular season this year. I'll go down the list. Michael Porter Jr., he was not averaging 10 rebounds a game during the regular season. There was a lot of nights he didn't care. He wasn't going after rebounds. He was content to stand on the three-point line and shoot threes. Guess what? Playoffs come, he buys in. He has 3 or 4 double-doubles that series? Let's go on the list. Aaron Gordon. You think he's making plays or making extra passes like that in Orlando? You think he's really putting in the effort on LeBron on defense and guarding the other team's best wing player? No, that's not happening in Orlando. He bought in. KCP, he's making plays off the ball. He can catch the ball in a dribble, rip through, get in the lane, and kick it out to a wide open three. He's not making a play like that. Even on the 2020 bubble Lakers, he's not making a play like that. You can trust him with the ball. And finally, Bruce Brown, initiating the offense. He's a de facto point guard, bringing the ball up the court, pushing it in transition, making the right play, getting to the rim. Bruce Brown, this is a guy on the Nets that stood in the paint and shot 5-foot floaters the whole game because that's what they needed him to do. Who knew he had this other level to unlock? He's literally initiating the offense. He's their de facto point guard without Murray on the court, even with him on the court sometimes. It's just been a joy to see from a basketball perspective, these guys really, really flourishing in their roles and even going above and beyond, just adding these new elements to their game because I've watched these guys for many years, most of them, and I'm not used to seeing this. I really am not used to seeing KCP hit every single big three in a playoff series. I'm just not.
And like we said it last episode, this is just reaffirming everything we've ever thought and said about Nikola Jokic, where people were always pointing to, well, he's not averaging 33 points a game like Joel Embiid, oh, he doesn't play elite defense like this. It's not about that. It's what he brings to the other guys and how he improves all these other guys. Joel Embiid doesn't make other players better. Nikola Jokic makes every single person on the court better at basketball. And I wanted to bring this up. I think it's kind of ironic that the year Embiid finally wins the MVP, Jokic just makes this insane finals run, and he's probably going to be the betting favorite to win the finals. It just shuts up every single Embiid argument. There's nothing there now.
I agree, and basketball is a 5-on-5 game, and when you got your teammates involved like that and got them bought in and playing at high level because they know they're going to be involved on offense and defense, it's underrated.
And people can't say, oh, it's a much better team, whatever, he's on Superstars. It's no, very similar rosters.
I think so too. You got Tobias Harris, that's an 18, 20-point scorer a game. Tyrese Maxey, one of the best young stars in the league. You got dudes on Philadelphia. It's a very comparable roster to Denver. Denver's just a well-oiled machine, man, and Jokic has them all playing at a high level. Embiid is an individual, is an amazing player. He deserved the MVP, sure. But in the playoffs, it's a 5-on-5 game. You want what Jokic brings to the table in the playoffs more than Embiid.
Kind of the last thing I want to talk about on Jokic. We'll do a finals preview obviously next week. Finals are June 1st. We'll have an episode out either Tuesday or Wednesday next week. We'll get that up and ready for you. Real quick, brief finals preview. Real quick, is this much rest for Denver going to be a bad thing? Because sometimes we see when these teams have 10 days rest, they come out rusty.
It does, I will say this, Carter, it does worry me a little bit. I think the rest is good for them, and it would be for a lot of teams, but they weren't really that banged up. There's not guys with nagging injuries. They're not nursing any health problems right now. Everybody's healthy and they're clicking. So I almost think it's a little too much time off. I think it might take them some time in game one to shake off the rust. I don't think it's going to be a series altering, they've had 10 days off, so they're going to lose the series. But I do think it could cost them game one, at least the first half, to shake off some of the rust. And maybe that could sway the series. I don't know, but it's definitely going to take some time to get back in that game groove rhythm they were in. They literally beat the Lakers in 4 straight games. They were on a tear. And I think if they had to play every other day for the rest of the NBA Finals without a break after the Lakers, they'd probably tear through the finals too. I really do think that. It's something to watch for, but with a team like this that's playing as well as they are, that knows each other this well, I don't think it's going to be series altering, but I think we might see some rust the first half of game one for sure.
And that's the other thing where I bring that up is if, let's say, Heat Celtics goes to a game 7 and it's a brutal game 7, maybe an overtime, all this, blah, 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 super physical, whatever. They get 3 days rest. They got to travel across the country. Got to go all the way to Denver. And I know I always bring this up is they got to play in altitude game 1 after that. So that's why I think it's just going to come into their advantage. I still would lean Denver in that game, even though just because of the altitude part of it, and people would say, "Oh, they're world-class athletes, they're insane." Like altitude's not going to affect them. It affects everyone. That's why that's why Hakeem Olajuwon did not win the '83 title against NC State. That's how they won, was altitude. It's that simple. Hakeem Olajuwon could never play in Utah and in Denver. It's just always been that way, and he's one of the most fit dudes that ever played in the NBA. That's what it is. And as someone who lives in Utah, I've been in North Carolina for like 10 days. I'm going to get back there. I'm going to get my fat butt in the gym on Tuesday when I get back. I'm going to be dying. I'm going to be like a quarter mile the way in, and I'm going to be sweating like a pig. Just wheezing.
That's okay, Carter. Just turn on my rants on the Carter cast, and it'll fuel you right there. Just up the speed to about 10 or 12 and just get sprinting. I don't know. About the Celtics, though, Carter, if they win 4 straight against the Heat, it kind of worries me a little bit for Denver. It's like, man, I know it's going to be physical, and I know it's going to be gut-wrenching, but...
But we say that Celtics just keep playing with their food. Celtics always play down. They always feel like they don't have to be up for it. They do the bare minimum to get by. I just think Denver is just playing so well, and I think that's when it finally catches up with them. Even if they do make this miraculous, coming back from 0-3.
Oh, don't get me wrong, Carter. I was just talking about game 1. I'm taking the Nuggets in whatever final series there is. And hear me this. I've been absolute horse shit in the playoffs with gambling. I'm about to hammer Nikola Jokic finals MVP at -160. If the Heat end up winning game 6 like I think they are, it's going to drop to like -350. I know for a fact. If the Celtics win, okay, I'm worried a little bit if if the Celtics are playing the Nuggets in the finals because they got more talent and they could hit 23s a game. Fine. I still think Denver's is a well-oiled machine. I really think this is Denver's year. And if you're going to bet the Nuggets to win the finals, just take Jokic as finals MVP. That's your bet. It's better odds.
Yep, love that too. And I'm just going to back you up here. Nuggets, everything. I don't care if it's Celtics. I don't care if it's the Heat. It's the Nuggets. Nuggets are just playing too well right now.
If the Heat advance to the finals, whatever it is for Jamal Murray to lead the series in points, take that as well.
We'll do finals picks and all that on next week's episode.
All right. Yeah.
But just a quick little preview right there. But the other thing is, if it's Denver, Miami 8 seed, it's going to be the battle of whether the regular season matters. So Denver, 1 seed, competed all season, played hard all year, and Miami, kind of took games off here and there, older group, didn't have to take things as seriously, felt like they've been there, kind of bored with the regular season type deal. If Denver loses that to Miami, it kind of kills the regular season officially. That's the final dagger that's the end of the movie, is the main character dies. Muted.
Well, okay, 3, 2. Well, they're already kind of staggering right now, Carter, because for the Heat to make it this far as an 8 seed is already a testament to the regular season not mattering as much as it should. They floated through the regular season, barely made it through the play-in tournament to get into the playoffs, and here they are about to make the finals. I get what you're saying, but final dagger, fine, sure. But the regular season's already staggering. They've got 2 hits in them. They got 2 body blows left before they're done, Carter.
Yep, 2 strikes, and it's a full count. Anything else?
No, that's it. Just real quick on the game tonight, didn't expect the Heat to roll over like that. I really didn't. And game 6, I think they come out with some fire, and I'm taking the Heat game 6. So we'll see. I think Boston's going to fizzle out a little too late. Coming back from 0-3 is insane. But you know what? When the talent disparity is like this, they're the ones to do it. So nothing would surprise me anymore. And
if you like the Heat, if you're doing it from a betting perspective, find one of these random guys, the Caleb Bartons of the world, the Duncan Robinsons, and take them to score 20+. Just a little fun plus, big plus odd play. Something to throw out there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You never know. It's a different guy every night for the Heat. Next game is probably going to be Kyle Lowry. He had a dud game tonight. He's going to have 20 next game. Watch.
Of course, in the biggest moments. All right. That's it.
And
right?
10 charges taken. 10 flops, 10 charges taken. And a 3-pointer that his foot's 2 feet over the line against the Hornets, and they call it 2. And then we'll call it a day.
All right.
Unbelievable.
We're done. It's 1:30 in the morning East Coast time. I don't know how you do this. This is awful.
Nah, let's get it. I'm wired, Carter. I'm wired.
I'm actually wide awake right now, sitting here at the beach. No vacation time, no time off. We're back casting after dark. But Connor, thanks for hopping on this late. We'll be back next week.
Of course.
Finals preview. We'll be back. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see y'all next time. Oh, don't forget, subscribe, please. Follow us on everything. We'll see y'all next time. Bye-bye.